Lock your doors, close your windows, and don't venture into the woods to investigate that strange red light. Welcome to the Mostly Pod Out at Night. Mostly, I am Graveyard, joined by my co-host Salem.
Hello.
This is episode 84 of our weekly All Things Horror podcast. What is that craft hovering in the sky? Did you see little green men or the Greys? Grab your guns, brace yourself for invasion as we dive into alien abduction movies with McPherson Tape, Communion, Fire in the Sky, and an impromptu fourth one, Alien Abduction Incident at Lake County. That the truth is out there. Now, having dealt with my fear of underwater, it's time to go into my co-host Salem's of alien B&Es for this week.
Oh, it's all about me? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, these are your most terrors that you have. And like I said, the underwater ones were definitely mine.
These kind of movies, like Alien Abduction and like Alien Home Invasions, really, really do actually scare me. I do not like them.
Yeah. And while they are, abductions, a lot of them are breaking and entering, right? Because they, 3 of them, they definitely went into their homes and took people. So, the impromptu fourth one, like I said, was Alien Abduction Incident at Lake County. And we'll just say that now just because it is a remake of the McPherson Tape.
McPherson Tape.
McPherson Tape, yes. McPherson.
But they mispronounced their own name in the movie, so.
They do.
Sometimes. Only sometimes.
Yes. But let's get into this. I'll go ahead and start recapping the really short McPherson Tape, right? What was it, like 56 minutes or something like that?
Yeah, it was like an hour-ish.
And we probably won't do as long as recaps on these because not a lot awfully happens in this movie, and they're not really good movies either.
Well, yeah, basically it's like alien event happens, people discuss alien event. That's the movie. Like that's pretty much it. The alien event may or may not happen again later on.
Yeah, and all of these are inspired by supposed real events. Every single one of these.
Well, two are essentially, one's a remake of one. So
yeah.
But anyway, those two are based on I think the most ridiculous alien encounter one that I've ever. If you actually read the story,
yeah.
It's like these people were supposedly held hostage in their house by aliens. They called them aliens. They're trapped in their house for days or hours, whatever. I forgot what it was. And then they drew the pictures of them later, and they're just owls. They're just plainly owls. So like, I don't know if they upset a big group of owls, and the owls were like fucking with them. Because like they were saying the aliens were like, they would sit on the roof, and then when we go outside, they'd like try to swoop it down at us. Like, that's a fucking owl, dude. What are you talking about? I don't know. To me, it's very clearly owls. I'm not going to make a determination either way. But to me, it very much sounds like an owl. The pictures that they drew of the quote unquote creatures, they look like owls.
Yes.
I mean, whatever. To me, it's owls, but that's what it's based on.
Yeah.
But the other two are supposedly first-hand events written by the people who experienced them.
Right. They wrote books and then later got movies.
Correct.
Made of them. But McPherson Tape, 1989, it was a TV movie as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So essentially it is, I think her name is Michelle, was the little girl. Anyway, it's a family celebrating a 6-year-old's birthday party. As they're celebrating it, and this is a found footage as well. Power goes off, and they're like, oh, that's weird. And like, nothing's working. Oh, let's go outside because all the fuse boxes in this one and the remake are outside. And like, the guy's bringing his cameras like, oh yeah, I'm doing this for film school. This is kind of what I'm doing. Just giant lug. I think this movie is supposed to take place in like 1983. So, camcorders were huge back then. They go outside and just really choppy footage, and they see a spaceship. They see, I'd say, typical Greys, right? The big eyes,
Well,
3 feet tall.
that's what they're supposed to look like. They're very clearly just short people.
Yes.
Wearing alien masks.
Yeah, like, oh shit. They kind of see them in alerts and they kind of get in and just stuff ensues because this is a very, very, very low budget movie. And essentially they're trying to figure out what's going on there. They're arming themselves and the aliens are trying to get into the house.
Do you know how small of a budget they had for this movie?
What, it was like $150?
$6,500.
Oh.
That was the entire budget for the entire film.
Well, that makes sense. And like I said, stuff ensues. There's spooky stuff. It's so blurry. You can't see a lot of these things, I would say.
I would argue that you can't see anything.
Oh, that's that. They say, oh, they're aliens. They see them through the window, and just like I said, stuff just not much happens, but stuff happens. And like, oh, they're in the ceiling, not on the roof, in the ceiling. And they
said they were on the roof.
Okay, and they shoot up through the ceiling. Like, oh, we got it. Yeah, I don't know how you knew that, but okay. Like I said, I may have been drinking a bit watching these movies because they're not relatively good.
This one, yeah, it was in prepping because, well, I'll talk about it later. But so this one I had prepped for Communion. I watched Communion and Fire in the Sky back to back in the same night, and Communion I started out sober and I did not end sober. Like, it was hard to get through. I had to stop and like take breaks, but we'll get there.
Yeah. So anyway, we very, very fuzzy stuff, bad tracking across this entire movie, and like, oh, hey, we gotta get all stuff. Like, oh, there's aliens coming up there. All their watches stopped. They're like, oh, who has a dial watch at this age, right? 1983, everyone has a digital Casios for the most part. Anyway, while they're kind of figuring out what to do, they're like, they kind of finished the birthday party. Like, okay, let's eat cake. All right,
in the
cool.
dark.
In the dark. Well, surprisingly, because they have like 1,000 candles and lanterns in this house.
Right.
So anyway, they blow out the candles for the cake, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the men kind of go, hey, we need to go outside because the little girl, Michelle, drew an alien. She's like, oh, where did you see that? Oh, I saw it outside the window. So they go out there, things are coming through the windows, through the chimney. Like I said, they shot at it. They think they killed one of them and put it like in the back room and draped something over it. Like a Afghan blanket, right? An Afghan.
It's just a blanket is fine.
Just
it doesn't matter what kind of blanket it is.
So anyway, they kind of go, you know what? We got to get out of here. We can't wait. The phones are dead. Power's out. This is just getting worse. So essentially the rest of the men, other than the guy holding the camera, goes, we're going to get help. And they kind of hear some shots, I would say, in the house, right? Inside the house, they go outside, they look in the truck, and it's just there are flashlights and guns. The guys are nowhere to be seen. So they're like, oh shit. I guess we'll just kind of wait it out. They kind of have like voices in their head telling them to like go outside, that you want to go outside. So there's some kind of mind control going out there too, but no one seems to remember being told to do these things. So anyway, they kind of just go back into it and like, oh, hey, we shouldn't do that. Everyone else is gone. Let's just secure everything and then, learn how to play Go Fish. And the camera kind of just set onto the, like, in the living room, and it has the camera pointing at them into like their dining room table as they're playing Go Fish. And then 3 aliens, come in from the side and go towards them. And, well, that's the end of it. And it ends like, missing person cases. Like, give any information, please contact our channel so we can find out what happened to this family. Am I really missing anything important there?
No. I think you over-explained it.
I'll go into my first thought / rewatch. I know I watched this probably when it aired. Now I would have been 4 or 5 at this time. I don't remember much, but I remember bits and pieces of this movie. But I'll just count this as a first thought and rewatch again. I've done some work on some low budget movies, and this seems even lower budget.
Well, yeah, the people weren't even actors; they were just people.
Yeah,
they were just people that they conned into doing this. Like, yeah, they're not actors. There's like nothing. The guy holding the camera, that is the director.
Which doing research is Sally Field's son.
I don't know.
I thought that was amazing.
Dean Alito or something is his name.
Yeah.
I don't know. I did not do any research on him because I don't know.
And I can see why, the idea of it being a TV movie is like they're trying to replicate War of the Worlds. Or was it Ghost Story that England did in the early 90s?
That was another
kind
one.
of the same thing, right?
Yeah, they purposely don't give you details and just kind of push you into it to make people assume that this is like a quote unquote real thing.
Right. And this is 10 years before, everyone considers what to be the essentially found footage again, for Blair Witch. And here we are 10 years, before Blair Witch and kind of doing the same thing. You can see a lot of inspiration that Blair Witch got of the true stories and stuff like that. I'm kind of glad I didn't remember most of this from 89, but it's an interesting piece of time for, what was your first thoughts / rewatches on this?
Well, as you and me have discussed ad nauseum about this, but this movie, I have not seen this movie, this version of it. I've never seen. I'm watching through this. I'm like, I don't know what this is. But anyway, what are the, sometimes you get movies or that you watched as a kid in your head and you don't know the name of them.
Right.
You can only remember a couple of scenes from the movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you spend your adult life trying to figure out what movies they are. Sometimes you thankfully remember enough details you can find them. There's a lot of them that I found. You remember that movie? Now I can't remember the name of it, but it's very easy to look up now because I remembered the details. There was a movie. It was like a generic action fantasy movie, and I remember the main character had a sword with 3 blades, and 2 of the blades he could shoot as projectiles.
Yeah.
I don't remember the name of the movie, but anyway, that was one of those movies I watched as a kid. I have no idea what the name of it was. I eventually found it, but it was fairly easy because it's got details. Anyway. The movie in this genre that fits all of the things I would type in, all of these things, looking for it. The McPherson Tape popped up every single time. They're like, this is the movie. This is the movie. It's got to be this movie. There's nothing else that even came close. I'm like, okay, it's got to be this. I've been dreading watching it because, like I said, alien abduction stuff, home invasion stuff really does bother me. The movies themselves don't scare me. It's just my mind gets working when I'm going to bed. And they freaked me out for a few days. The idea of the aliens freaked me out, not the movies. I don't like fear scenes from these movies at all. They're generic, and I know that they're fake. But the idea of this thing possibly happening gets to me. Anyway, so these scenes from the movie, they're kind of sort of in this movie, but not in the way that I saw them. I have very vivid memories of what they were.
Right.
And this was not it. And as I was watching it, I was very disappointed that it wasn't. I'm like, this isn't it. I remember telling you at the end of it, this isn't it. What the hell?
Right.
And then when I was researching it, I found out that he had remade this movie later on, like 10 years later. And they renamed it the Alien Abduction Incident in Lake County, which is the 4th one. We added it in later simply because I watched it to see if that was the one. And it was. We'll talk about that when we get there. But I really thought it was this movie. And it wasn't. So I really don't have much to add for this movie other than it wasn't very good. But yeah, so I thought this was the movie that I had seen as a kid. This was not it. It's the other one.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, this is not good.
Yeah. Let's get into our highlights here. Probably be pretty slim this episode. I'll go into my highlights first. I mean, like I said, having done what I've done so far with indie horror and what we're planning on doing, with what you and I are writing, is I can understand the low budget, right? And I get it. Like, you can't pay for actors because actors cost money, but I mean, it was a kind of cohesive story. Like, they kind of worked within their budgetary restraints, right? It was a single location, right? It's just a house. So I do appreciate him, working with the constraints he had. And like I said, if he had a bigger budget, it probably could have been something better. Maybe at this point when I watched it. Were the people believable? No, but
No,
I said it was a somewhat cohesive story based on some incident. Yes, and I give him kudos also for trying to make it a realistic airing that was on TV. That was kind of new and not really done. So I like that. The idea of it happening like that. The modern day War of the Worlds, if you will. That's what I got. What about you?
As far as high points, I think it's the ideas in the movie. They're not executed well, but I think the ideas of it, like the whole aliens, like, attacking your home and leaving you a prisoner in your own home. Good idea. Mm-hmm. Not executed great, but good idea. Like the trance thing, like the goofy mind control is terrifying. Done well? Not really. But the idea of it is good.
Yeah.
And like I said, yeah, for the amount of money that he had available to do this, yeah, it's interesting for what he spent on it. But like, I mean, you get what you pay for.
Correct. Why don't you roll into your low points?
All right. Well, one is very, very, very obvious. The camera was a bad camera.
Mm-hmm.
I would say probably half of the runtime of this film is you staring at a black screen or pointing at some random object while things are supposedly happening around you, but you can't see it because the camera is not facing it.
Did we just watch Skinamarink again?
Oh, it was like they keep saying all these things are happening, but the camera can't pick it up.
Right.
Like they're saying, "Oh, there's aliens in the window." Not once did I see an alien in the window.
I was scanning hard for that.
Right, I was too. I was like, "There's nothing there," and it's like there probably was something there, but it's like the camera is so bad that it can't pick it up. And I know that whatever. It's probably a VHS rip that's been uploaded a bunch of times. Whatever. It's there's no like great version of this movie or anything.
No,
but it was put out in the age of SD and VHS, so that's just what we got. But anyway, and the camera is just a home video camera in 1983. So
right.
Whatever. So that's not great. And again, I think a lot of part of that is the lights. It's just the camera was not meant to pick up not lighted up areas. And a lot of these areas are just dark and you can't see a fucking thing. The entire time they are outside, you can't see a fucking thing.
No.
Even when he's like supposedly zooming in on the aliens, you can't see shit.
Nope.
It's like there's a couple of like buzzing around like lights and you're like, what is going on? And then like by the time you're like, oh, I think there's some people, then they're turning and running. It's like you can't see shit. So like I understand that they're talking the entire time, like narrating what's happening, but like you really can't see anything, and that takes away from it. And I know you can do it better because they did it better in the next one. But
yes,
I don't know if that was just technology or just bad choices. The spaceship again. There's like we're looking at a spaceship. Like I could not see a spaceship there at all. I saw like a light and that was it. I saw like a light and I did see like a couple of like little people. But that was it. Like I was like, where are you getting spaceship out of this? Like I do not see a spaceship. It looks like somebody's got like a garage door open.
Yeah.
Like, it did not look like a spaceship in any way. It gets really, really old. Like I understand, like they're trying to like why would someone keep a camera rolling this entire time when these horrible things are happening, right? It doesn't make sense. But to have every single person in the entire family bitching the entire time, like, will you put the camera down? Can you stop using the camera now? I mean, it's like every 5 minutes throughout the entirety of this movie, somebody is bitching about the camera being on. Just stop. Like, this is the whole point of this movie. Like, please tell the actors that are there to stop bitching about the camera. We get it. Like, in the beginning, I understand that. You're trying to build your premise here. I got it. But like towards the end, it gets real old, real fast. Please stop bitching about the camera. And also, the acting is atrocious. I mean, it's very bad. Again, these aren't real actors, so it's like I can't really like judge them too harshly. But I understand that he purposely did not use real actors because he was trying to get that like realness. But they like don't stop talking. They like continually keep rambling. That's not how humans communicate. Like, just slow down. And the aliens are just bad. I mean, they're very clearly just short people in a bad alien mask wearing like black jumpsuits. That's it. That's all they are. But I would say more of the first half of the movie is just bad. The second half is better. That's not saying much.
Right.
But overall, that's how I would judge it. What are your low points?
My God, everyone was just, as you said, talking nonstop and talking over each other. So you're trying to follow any fucking conversation. You can't.
Right.
You just cannot. And like, is that always the case in real life? I don't think so. I don't think if you have 6 people around a table, they're all going to each be having their own fucking conversations. You're there for a birthday party. They'd be engaged in the same conversation.
Right. A birthday party for a 6-year-old that has no other children.
Correct.
Good job, guys.
So, like, and that kind of takes it away. I don't think people, as you said, people aren't like that in real life. And yeah, I understand they're not actors. They shouldn't be talking over each other because they clearly do that in movies. You don't do that. That's not a thing that you do. You know what I mean? And like I said, it was really hard just to even pick up a single thread that was happening in the movie. The special effects, maybe they were good, and it's just the quality that we were able to watch this on is just atrocious. Maybe it looked like that originally too, as you said, you can see jack shit. Like it could have been like there's 50 aliens outside the window. I'd be like, I see nothing. I mean, I don't know. I don't think the acting is good. And it's just kind of like you could tell where there were breaks in the movie, right? Obviously they didn't shoot it for an hour nonstop in one take, but they could have used that. I think they should have been able to have more direction to the movie. Other than just talk. And it was all clearly just improv the entire time.
Right.
Except at one point in time, they're like, all right, hey, look at the window and scream.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell they were given like generic directions, but like they were just babbling on.
Right. Because, having quietness is perfectly okay in your movie. Not everyone has to, there doesn't have to be something talking the entire time. You can build atmosphere and tension with the quiet moments.
Right.
And be able to insert sound effects so we can hear it better. So you can hear things on the roof. Because you're not going to be talking like that nonstop if you're in that type of situation. You're going to be shutting the fuck up as something's trying to break into your house. That's what I got. So we'll do a number of probes out of 10 for this week. Even though I think only probes happen in 2 of these movies.
They're bad enough in those 2.
Yeah. Why don't you go first? How many probes out of 10 do you give this movie?
I mean, it tries to have some good ideas, but overall execution is not great. So I will give it a 2. 2 probes out of 10.
Yeah, it's the budget could have been better. Obviously we'll see that and they remake it 9 years later. I will give it 2.5 just because I know what it's like to or know people that work with a small budget like that. But I think they pull it off better than this. But at least he tried, so you gotta give it to him. So 2.5 probes. All right, why don't you walk us through Communion as fast as humanly possible?
Yeah, I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time on this movie because this movie, I will say right now, made me fucking angry. It's just ridiculous. Now, as I'm explaining this movie, I'm not gonna go into all the wacky bullshit that Christopher Walken does in this movie. It's very clearly they let him just ad lib whatever the fuck he wanted.
Yep.
And he is just insane all over the place. It is like humans do not communicate this way. Like humans do not act like this. This is not a human interaction. Like I don't understand what the fuck is going on. Like the interactions with his family are just pure chaos.
Yes.
And just like outrageously like just abnormal. I don't know how else to describe it. It is bizarre.
Well, like I said, it's imagine Marlon Brando from Island of Dr. Moreau, but Christopher Walken in this movie.
Right. I mean, just the way that he like acts, the way that he talks. I mean, he's like putting on fucking outfits and dancing around. I mean, in scenes that don't call for it at all.
Yeah.
It is just bizarre, weird bullshit. If you really want to experience that, watch it. I'm not going to describe all the shit because it's fucking annoying. It's not a good film. I'm going to skip over all that bullshit. I'm going to tell you the main points of the story. Just imagine all this Christopher Walken wacky bullshit happening in between these scenes and also during these scenes. Just going to put that out there. So Christopher Walken is the dad / author of this book film. So it's like a whatever autobiography.
Whitley.
Of Whitley is his first name. Whatever. So anyway, he has a wife and a daughter. And they decide to go up to their like cabin in the woods for a fun weekend with their friends who are a husband and wife duo that come with them. They go out there, normal stuff. They go to sleep that night and they're all woken up by like lights that happen. There's like huge, super shining, bright lights that come in through their windows. There's kind of sort of more that happens here, but that's all that anyone can remember. The next day, the other couple are so upset about it that they demand to be brought home early.
Yes.
They are driven home early. That they all cancel their because it takes like hours to get out there. So they cancel the whole thing. They drop them off, and then they pretty much don't show up in the rest of the movie. They're only there to like have this one scene. I think they're there for like a minor scene later, but that's it.
Yeah.
They're just there to like show bad things happen. So now that wacky Christopher Walken is back in the world, he starts like overreacting to weird things relating to like light and then like bug like things. It's like, this was in October when they went out there, and then Halloween. He has like a freak out when like some person dressed as a, I don't know, like praying mantis person. I don't know how to describe that, or grasshopper man. Anyway, they like scare the crap out of him with that. And he has like weird flashback of like a part of what really happened to him. But anyway, he overreacts and everybody gets upset and he leaves. And then they basically say like, you need to go to therapy because you're being a big jerk and blah, blah. So he goes to therapy. He tries to describe what happens. He can't really explain it. So they you should do hypnosis. He does hypnosis, and that's when he finds out that he was abducted. Not like a little bit the first time, but then when they went back there again for Christmas later on, he was like full on super abducted.
Yes, he was. He was gang bang anal probe.
Right. So there's like two different aliens that were part of it. The one are like little trolls. They're like little black trolls in like little black outfits.
If you saw them in the Star Wars cantina, you'd think, okay, It's a George Lucas
they look
creation.
like they look like little goofy aliens, but they're wearing like little black hoods and little like
Yeah.
robes and everything. They're very, very odd looking. And then there's what I will call the flesh colored noodly gray, who is like very obviously like just a paper mache construction. And they're just like held up by wires and they're just kind of floating around like, and they literally, their arms are like made of noodles. They just like flap around. But anyway, so he has these visions of the aliens came into his house, took him in their ship, I guess probed him with something that looked like a big microphone.
It looked like a huge microphone.
Yeah, it looked like a big old microphone. And then like whatever, they like did things to him. And then that's what he's reacting about. So then he like goes to this like support group for alien abduction people, and he finds out that they all experience like the same things that he did. And then he's like, oh, okay, I guess this is what's happening. This is what I'm going to write about now, because he was a writer and he couldn't, he had writer's block.
Yeah.
So he decides that he's going to do that. And in order to like get all the information to really write his book, well, first he had to like rule out everything else. So he gets all these like brain tests to make sure he has nothing wrong with his brain.
They make sure that he didn't have like epilepsy.
Right. And make sure he's not hallucinating this and this actually happening. And then he decides, okay, well, I'm going to do this right. So he dresses up in like a fucking goofy zoot suit.
Mm-hmm.
And then goes out there and like willingly lets the aliens abduct him again. And then that's it. He like writes the story, and then now it made into a movie, and now we have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that
there's lots more to the movie, obviously, but
well, like I said, all of the rest of it is all Christopher Walken wacky bullshit of him overreacting and doing goofy weird shit and like, wearing cowboy boots with no pants for no reason. And
you can't forget the atrocious Christmas pageant.
Oh yeah, the Christmas pageant. Like he fucking like when he puts on his zoot suit, he literally does like a fucking like 2-minute long like dance routine.
He was preparing for Fat Boy Slim's video.
Oh my god, dude. I was like, what the fuck is happening in this movie? It was like, it's so confusing. It's so fucking it gets old. Like his wacky bullshit gets so old so fast. And it's just like, I used to like when Christopher Walken did his wacky shit, but again, it's like you could tell that director like could control him a bit, and be like, okay, we don't need all that. Like just do a little bit. Like this guy didn't just let him do whatever the fuck he wanted, and it's outrageous. Like even the guy who wrote this stupid ass story, he is even upset at how much ad-libbed wacky bullshit is in this movie because he literally just did whatever he wanted.
Yeah, he was pretty much eating the scenery.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's hard to get through. Watch it if you really like Christopher Walken. This will be a test. This will be your test to see how much you really like Christopher Walken, because this is like pinnacle Christopher Walken. This is definitely his movie. Like he is the end all be all of this movie. And if you really think you love Christopher Walken, watch this movie. You will quickly find out if that's true or not.
Yeah.
Because I thought I loved Christopher Walken, and now I don't. Now I have to rethink everything. But anyway, so yeah,
I mean, those are kind of our first thoughts on this.
Yeah, that's the first thought. Is this is extremely confusing. It's all over the fucking place. I purposely never watched it because again, alien abduction movies freak me out. Even if the movie itself is bad and fake, and I know it's not real, it's like it still messes me up for a couple of days. I have a hard time sleeping. So I try to avoid them.
Right.
And this is one of the ones I tried to avoid, knowing how dumb it is now. I don't know why, but
yeah. I agree. My first thoughts is just, he's zany, he's wacky. He's just, like I said, chewing the scenery. Like it's pretty much everyone's like, okay, he's going to say whatever he feels like it. And you just kind of got to go with it. You just have to.
Yep.
And like to the point where everyone's just like, his wife's staring at him, like not knowing what to say. Yes, you are absolutely correct in that response. What do you say to that?
Right. It's like literally he says some weird, wacky shit, and it's like he's not looking at anyone.
No.
He's just like saying weird shit to the wall, and you're like, you're kind of like tilting your head like a dog. Like, was that a response to that statement, that question? Like, what the fuck was that? And then they just like move on.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah. I'm a dog. at night, looking at the stars. And like, what? Yeah, no.
Yeah. And then next scene, what the wait, what? What is that supposed to mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, and his like weird hallucination of all the kids also at like the anal probe sessions that were there. That
Right.
was so weird.
I completely left out all of the child scenes on purpose.
Oh, we'll get to those. Don't
Fucking
worry.
child. Holy fucking shit. Oh man, we'll get there. He was like 6 going on 40.
Yeah.
Oh. All right, well, we'll get there. Anyway,
All right.
so that's that. You want me to go
Yeah.
at my high points first?
Yeah.
High points, there's not a whole lot. But again, it's just the idea of the alien home invasion is terrifying to me. And again, I can't cut out that they did that part well. That it's freaky when you get abducted by aliens and you can't remember it and you have to relive it through like weird hypnosis because you don't know of what's real and what's not. That's scary. To me, like, you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh man, I think I heard something. And you're sitting there and then you see a fucking alien hide behind a dresser in your room. That would scare the shit out of me. And he's just like, someone is there. Like, who is there? And his weird fucking Christopher Walken voice. Like, he doesn't give a shit. He's not even looking at the dresser. It's like, dude, what are you doing? But that is genuinely scary to me.
Right.
That's it. What do you got?
For me, I mean, production wise, they seem to have money, much more than the McPherson Tape, which came out the same year.
This movie, it does have a budget for sure.
Yeah,
they did not do a good job with the budget.
No, and I do kind of like the fact that this is, it's multiple months, right? Because I think by the time when he gets his zoot suit and goes back up there, it's spring. So we start off at like October, through fall, through winter, and then into spring, and seeing the traumatic stuff that happens over multiple months, not just a one night experience, right? It's not like, oh, this is the single night. No, it's like living with the trauma that comes after what would be an alien abduction for individuals for that entire time. I do appreciate that. I like the fact that they go, hey, let's rule out, something wrong with your brain, right? Maybe you had epilepsy. Maybe something happened, because everyone said they saw the lights, but no one else really experienced it. So they kind of went that exorcist route, right? Where they did medical tests to see if there wasn't something more to the story. I do appreciate that. That's about it. I'll roll into my low points. All the kids stuff. Kids.
Oh my god.
Absolutely low. The wackiness of Christopher Walken was just like, it's not even to 11. It's like the 20. They turn up to 20. They really need to have reined him in a hell of a lot more, because they couldn't put anything into their scene without him just like going, I gotta touch it. I gotta do something with this. He's all like just all over the place. Whether this guy was abducted or not is a whole different thing, but the nonsensical way they got to a lot of these points just didn't make any sense. Why wear a zoot suit? Why do all this weird ass shit? You know what I mean? And then like both him and his wife, when they're being hypnotized, 1, you're sleeping. 2, you're sleeping. 3, you're sleeping. And they go relive these counts and they're like, oh, I came out of it. What? Both of them.
Yeah. Well, again, I don't think they like quite understood the whole hypnotism part of this in the production side. So,
because all of a sudden you're just going through your story, and when you get to the end of your story, you're not hypnotized anymore. I don't think that's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah, I don't. I don't know.
Like, they both were cognitively aware they were out of the hypnotic state. Okay, sure. the way he slept, I'm like, oh, he sleeps really weird. What? No, he's hugging the torso of his wife while she's sleeping. His like head's on her hip. I'm like, that would be the most annoying way to sleep.
Yeah, it was like I was looking at it for a while. I'm like, what position are they in? Like, how is this possible?
He's just
it's like a very weird. He's like perpendicular to her body.
Yeah. I'm like, this makes zero sense. How could anyone sleep like that? How could you be the person that has an entire person like wrapped around your torso sleeping? Because I'm like, oh, maybe that's just weird. And they show it again. I'm like, no, that's how they sleep. I'm like, that is insane. I'm like, okay. And let's face it, essentially him sucking the tentacles of the tentacle alien and like doing a dance party at the end of them and like, hey guys, you can probe me all you want.
And again, that's not a joke. There's literally a fucking dance party with the aliens at the end. Like they literally put on music and they all dance together on the alien spacecraft. That is legitimately a scene that happens.
And I'm pretty sure he sucked one of the tentacles. I'm just saying.
I don't know. I was in and out of paying attention at this point in time because I could not deal with it anymore.
Yeah, I'm just like, wow. Those are my low points. How about you?
I'm going now.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we already talked before about it, like how just insanely chaotic his like family time is. It's just outrageous. Like these are not humans. Humans do not communicate together in this way. I don't understand. Like, you can't keep this up all day. There's no way you can't do that. That child actor, holy fucking shit. That might be like one of the worst child actors I've ever seen.
Oh, easily.
Oh my God. Oh man. Like sometimes when he's walking down the street, like I said, he looks like he's 6 going on like 45 for some reason. The little outfits they put on him.
He's wearing like a newsy outfit.
Right. What is happening? But anyway, like his acting is atrocious. Like I don't know how. Again, I understand they're children. People tell me all the time, you're judging children too harshly. No, I'm not. They're fucking actors. You're putting them in movies. You're hinging entire plot elements on these fucking child actors. Mm-hmm. There are children out there that can fucking act. Go find them. Don't fucking put in these shitty fucking kids because they're like, whatever, somebody you know's kid or something. I don't understand it. But I mean, even that's not true because I've seen movies where it's like, we did a nationwide talent search to find this kid. And it's like, and that's what you fucking got? Like this fucking kid that can't act for shit?
How many people did you interview? 2?
Yeah, it's like, I don't understand. Like, I don't get it. But there's some like children that just do well. I don't know if they just are directed well or how it is, but I don't understand it. But again, this one very, very, very bad. Again, Christopher Walken. Wow. Again, if you really want to know if you like Christopher Walken, this is your test. Watch this movie. You will find out real fast if you can deal with this shit for long periods of time or not. The alien effects. Holy crap. Again, I already made fun of the flesh-colored paper mache gray alien with the noodle arms.
Mm-hmm.
And the little troll guys. Like, they had 3 troll guy heads, okay? And one of them, inexplicably, is stuck in a duck kissy face, like, position.
Yeah.
And every single scene, there are 3 of those little black aliens, and one is, I have no idea why, is stuck in a weird kissy face thing. I don't understand it, but I guess they only had enough for 3 masks, and they're like, we gotta put them in every single scene. So they did. It's bizarre. I don't understand it. And the other thing I will say is the music in this is terrible. It's just like once in a while, it's like, generic movie score number 2, right? And then all of a sudden it'll be like, bang! Like these little, like really loud, like guitar solos pop up out of nowhere.
Did you see who did the soundtrack?
Yeah, I did, and that's what pissed me off. It was like Eric Clapton was one of the people on it, and I'm like how the fuck did this happen? The other one was like, it was like with the guitar player from Oingo Boingo. I'm like, oh man, I like Oingo Boingo. Like what the hell? It was like all these really good musicians, and apparently when they put them all together, they just can't do shit because it was terrible.
It sounded like softcore porn music.
Right, but it was like, again, just generic movie score, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere it would be like like weird guitar solos in like inappropriate times. Like,
guys, Eric just woke up. He's gonna do something real fast. All right.
Right. I was just very confused. Like, oh, okay. I guess so. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
Okay. All right. So number of probes out of 10. I'll go first. This is 1. This is easily a 1. I do not like this movie in the least bit.
Yeah, I will double down. I fucking hated this movie. I don't know if I can describe, like, I don't know if I can put into words how much I fucking hate this movie. I hated this movie. I will give it a 0.25 out of 10 probes. I could not stand this thing.
Yeah. Well, now we never have to watch it again.
No, please no.
All right. Well, we went 35 years without watching it. Maybe we wait another 35 years before we watch it again. All right. So next up, we have Fire in the Sky. Easily the biggest production budget.
Oh, I would say for sure.
Easily.
For sure. They have more than one actor in this movie.
Yes. Poor James Gardner got roped into this. So anyway, like I said, these movies plots aren't that exciting. So I'll just gotta do a quick recap for Fire in the Sky, which came out in 1993, based on a true story from something that happened in 1975. Long story short, it's a really small town. And there's a 6-man crew led by Robert Patrick himself and his buddy. It was Mike and Travis, and then I think Dallas and the 3 other people. I don't remember their names at this point in
3
time.
cowboy hat guys. I don't know who they are.
And they're loggers, right? They have to clear out a side, and they're working on it, and they're working hard. There's some animosity between Dallas and Travis. They really don't like each other, but anyway, they're clearing out the side, and as they're driving home, like, oh man, there's this red light in the sky. Is it a fire? I don't think it's fire. Well, there's only 1-lane road here. If we get down here, we're fucked. All right, let's go check it out. So they do. Travis is out, like, and goes under the red light, turns bluish white. He gets in a trance. Everyone's freaking out. Dallas rolls up his window just because you have to do that. And Travis gets hit, ever so slightly, I'd say. And like, oh, he's dead. Get out of here, boys.
And very, very clearly falls down on a bag underneath some grass.
Yes. I mean, granted, he only, was only like 2 feet in the air, went back like 4 feet. So, he's dead. They get back into town. They try to go find him. He's not there. They're getting questioned. They call it in. They're getting questioned by, the sheriff and the guy they bring in, which is James Gardner. Like, oh, what really happened? And we told you this is what happened. Oh, this guy didn't like Travis. Yeah. You boys want to do polygraph test? No. Well, okay. And they're like discussing. The town starts turning on them. Robert Patrick's wife's like, I don't know what happened to him because, she was in love with his little sister. And the guy, Travis's brother's like, oh, you guys killed him. And it's just kind of going back and forth. Like, town's like, we got to do something about this. They killed him. And they're like, we have no proof. They did searches, like the 50-man fan out searches. They found a buried dog. I think they said it was. And like, all right, we'll take your stinking polygraph test. And, so all 5 guys go in there, and there's like, all right, well, 4 clean, 1 is there's anomalies, but like, okay, well, if you can arrest us. Well, we got nothing. That's what I thought. And instead of telling them what the results were, because they all really passed the test, like they all really believe this is what happened, so they're telling the truth as far as the polygraphs were concerned. Like I said, Robert Patrick is like get kicked out of his house because his wife didn't believe him and thought maybe he was a murderer. And then the media circus essentially came into town. Hotels were maxed out. We had other UFOologists there talking to try to get the story straight and trying to figure out what's happening. Long story short, eventually Robert Patrick ends up back with his wife and their kids. People are like, okay, this isn't happening. Gets a phone call and it's Travis. He's at some gas station. So he loads up his little sister, Travis's brother, and they head out and they find him naked at a gas station. And they're like, oh, we got to call some guys. And then like 2 ufologists come in.
Here's where I call bullshit, right? To me, this is where the story is definitely bullshit. Because one, if you are literally being accused by the police that you have murdered and tried to hide the murder of your friend, and your friend calls you and you go pick him up, who's the first people you call?
The cops saying he's not dead.
Let's call some random UFOologist guy who you barely met who gave you a card. Why the fuck would you call? Why would you call an ambulance?
Correct. I mean, but I'm saying you would call the cops, and you would.
Of course you would. That's again, like, to me, this is immediate bullshit. If somebody goes, "Oh, my friend who's been missing for 5 days, who we're being accused of murdering, we finally find him. We're calling the UFO guys." Okay.
Yeah.
You're full of shit. This is a fake story.
And then they get like 10 people in that little area there in the bathroom, and they start harassing him. He starts having flashbacks. Anyway, they take him to the hospital. You know, like, oh, bad shit happened to him. He doesn't seem to remember anything that's going on there. So I think it's a couple months later, or no, it's a couple days later, and they're like, okay, he's clear bit of health. Let's bring him back home. They have a party. And then he starts having flashbacks because he's hiding on the table, and then maple syrup goes on the table and then it hallucinates. And we see him waking up in like a pod on a wall, and just like in tasty wheat, let's say. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it looks like the slop that ate on.
How do the machines know what tasty wheat tasted like?
It reminded me exactly of that, and that's why I said tasty wheat, because it reminded me of the pods from Matrix. It reminded me of the crap they were eating on the ship, and it looked like that wheat what he was in. So anyway, he kind of crawls his way out, and he's like, oh, it's some like gravity well that he's able to hold on to a tube and go up and down. And eventually, he gets up there. He sees, the aliens that abducted him kind of just hovering there, and he just wakes them up on purpose, and they start just torturing the shit out of him and just obscene tests. And the scene that would, if I was an actor and doing this scene, I would not be able to do, to be under that tight of fucking latex. I would not be able to do that. I've gotten too claustrophobic in my older age. I would not be able to do that.
That's a big fetish thing, man.
I know, I couldn't do it, but anyway, see him
I'm not a fan either, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, his eyes being pried open with essentially Clockwork Orange tools, and being probed in the mouth, and like vacuums sent down there, and and then we cut to like he has a flashback, comes back out of it 2.5 years later. Or Patrick, he's aged 50 years.
Right.
He's now a hermit living out there. He's like, oh, now it's like the 80s. And like, it seemed like it was the 80s, but it was only 2.5 years. Like, it's been how long? So anyway, Travis is okay. He has like a kid, and another kid on the way. And they're like, yeah. The movie.
Yeah.
This is the Travis Walton story, which is a huge thing, and we could get into whether we believe this to be real or not
I'm not going to commit one way or the other, because I don't want to judge things that I don't know enough about. But I will say that whenever you look up this story, it always is predicated by, this is highly skeptical, even from skeptical-minded people. So this is like, even the UFO people don't believe this story.
No,
just putting it out there.
Yeah, you look up the controversies and the stuff that's happened over the past nearly 50 years now of this story, right?
Right.
You make the judgment for yourself.
Right. My choice is made by, you find your friend naked at a gas station after 5 days, after you've been like in police custody getting grilled, that because they think you murdered this person, and the first person you call is some random UFO dude. Bullshit. Immediate bullshit. You guys fucking made this up.
Yes. I said the controversies and the like behind the story is really interesting.
It is.
I love the behind the story stuff of this things. Like I said, you can make your own judgments.
And there's developments in that story as early as recent as like 2020.
2021. Yeah.
It's still going.
Yeah, because the two of them had a falling out, Mike and Travis. So they recanted a lot of their statements. Right. And then uncanted that recant.
Right. Well, because this happened in Arizona.
Right.
And Arizona has one-sided call recording. I forgot what they call that. But like, so where if you record a phone call, you don't have to tell them you're recording. It's still legally admissible.
Right.
So they did that to both of them, and then they realized later, oh shit, we didn't realize that was legal. No, we take all that back.
Right. Also, he's trying to make a new movie. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
And I'll go into my first thoughts. Is I'm pretty sure I saw this on TV in the 90s. Almost positive, because that's the alien abduction scene I vividly remember. I vividly remember the red light in the forest and the tractor beam scene essentially as well. Have I watched it probably since 1994, let's say? No. But I'm like, there's some known people in this cast. And I thought, like I said, despite what you think of the stories of abductions, all that shit, overall I thought it was a pretty put together movie. What was your I'm pretty sure you've seen this before too, right?
Yeah, I saw it before around the time it came out. Again, these kind of movies. The movie itself is not scary to me.
No.
But like, again, when I'm going to bed that night, my brain starts a churning, and I start thinking about aliens abducting me, and I get freaked out. I mean, there's reasons. I think I've talked about the reasons before, but anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the churns my mind. But I don't remember anything about this movie. I mean, I vividly, like you said, I vividly remember the spaceship scene.
Yes.
I remember that. I remember every single bit about that. Everything. I don't remember any of the rest of the story. The rest of the story is so fucking forgettable. Like, it does not matter. But I do not remember any of that. I remember the scene of like him getting hit with the light and floating, but that's also like the cover of the movie, right? Yeah. It's like, it's everywhere. But I remember that happening, and I remember them fucking taking off in their truck because it's hilarious, right?
Yeah.
And then I remember him on the spaceship. I don't remember anything else. But to be honest, you really don't have to. That's the only thing you need to know from this movie, honestly, is that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the 5 days of the stories and the town turning against them. Honestly, that's the idea of the heart of the story, but like that, like I said, for it to be so seared into our heads 30 years later is absurd. Right. It's that memorable that we haven't watched it probably in 30 years, but it's just ingrained into our heads.
Right.
I'll go with my highlights first. I said star-studded cast. Well, some stars, but as I said, Robert Patrick is fantastic. And ironically enough, as I was watching this movie, someone had posted about Robert Patrick that he only plays bad guys. I'm like, au contraire, Fire in the Sky, he's a good guy.
Doesn't always play bad guys. I think his most famous roles are bad guys, but he doesn't always play a bad guy.
Yeah. Especially in comparison to the other 3 movies on this list, I watched the other 2 first, is graphically it feels like, especially the spaceship scene, it feels phenomenal. It looks great. You know what I mean? It looks torturous. Like I said, I have nightmares of being in that latex thing and just only be able to have my eye open and my mouth. I would not be able to film that scene, hands down. But I said they do such a good job, and that's why it stuck with us for 30 years. I think that's what probably most people remember of this movie is that scene, or that sequence. And I said, plot wise, it's good. Is it memorable? Not really, but I mean, it's a more coherent plot than we've gotten anything else so far this episode. Yeah, and you felt like he I won't say he Travis acts like the typical abductee, but he does. The flashbacks and the mental instability that happens from something like that, and the buried memories that usually are triggered by some sort of event or from hypnosis. I do like that, and they dive into it. It felt very X-File-esque in a way. What about you?
My first high point was when they were looking at they look at quite a few like National Enquirer type magazines throughout the course of this movie. The one that I thought was the best one was, of course, it wasn't one of the main headlines, but it was along the sidebar. It said, "Study shows mayonnaise can improve your sex life."
Yes, I saw that too.
Now, it didn't specify whether eating mayonnaise specifies your sex life or simply using mayonnaise in some form other than, putting on sandwiches would improve your sex life in some way. But it made me laugh a lot thinking about what that could possibly mean. I thought that was fun. Other than that, like you said, really the only scene worth remembering in this movie is the ship stuff. It is really well done. It is kind of bizarre because the ship is not like as pristine and clean as you're usually led to believe that alien spacecrafts are, right? Every time you see like, somebody's on an alien spacecraft, it's like pristine, bare metal walls, everything's like stainless steel, and featureless, and there's no like decorations of any kind or anything. And this one is just like, like you said, he wakes up in this like you said, pod. It's got like a membrane wall, and he's like in all this goo stuff.
Since they're death pods, because decomposing people.
Right, yeah, there's like dead people in some of them, like they forgot about them or they fuck with them too much and then just like decided to study how they rot. Who knows what's going on. But like, as he's traveling through this thing and walking down the hallway, you see all this like, kind of stuff that just like fell off of people. Like, glasses and keys and like little kids' baby shoes, like all kinds of stuff just like floating around. Like they've been doing this for a long time.
Yes.
And to a lot of people. And it's just like, it's like a machine at this point. But like the aliens are cool. I thought it was also cool how he like found their spacesuits, and the spacesuits look like your typical gray alien. The big black eyes, the gray skin, the gray smooth skin and stuff like that. But the aliens themselves, in this version, are just like weird, kind of like fleshy, wrinkly humanoid type things, right?
Well, they wore an exoskeleton like you do in Independence Day, let's say.
Oh, it's just a suit. It's like a space suit or whatever.
Right.
But those are like the typical what they describe as gray was what he said was just a spacesuit for them, and that they really looked like. But again, the scene is they showed in all the trailers, which I think is just like giving away the whole plot of the movie. Is like him, being under that latex and like being like probed and with the eye thing. I mean, it's fucking terrifying, but it's really well done.
Yeah,
those effects, whoever did those effects, like great job. Stellar.
Yes.
The alien effects are great. I mean, they look like, little science aliens that don't really have morals, I don't know how they do that, but they don't speak or communicate in any way. But they like, you get the feeling like these are like weird Nazi aliens that experiment on things.
They look sinister.
Yeah. And it was, I think everything was just very well done in that point. Like I said, the rest of the movie is very forgettable. Like, who gives a shit? The story is just wrapping for essentially what is this alien spaceship scene in my opinion. That's why I don't remember it when I watched it before, and you really don't have to. It's very boring, generic, typical alien abduction garbage. But
right.
So there you go. I'll go into my low points here. I think what is funny, because as great of effects as they did with the aliens and the inside of the ship, the exterior, like quote unquote UFO scene was horrible.
Yeah.
It looked like they like pulled it out of a Cracker Jack box and like just put a light on it. Like it was the dumbest looking UFO I've ever seen. I was like, wow, I mean, it was so bad for being like what the whole movie's supposed to be about. That was hilarious. Also, like, what a group of quote unquote friends you have, right? Like, you get hit with a light and fly back, and they're like, nope. And they just take off.
He
Every
did.
single one of those people are like, go, go, go. Not one person was like, hey, wait. But he did, later on when they're like, a mile away. Oh, should we go back? Like, it's a little late now, dude.
He dead.
Right. Yeah, he's gone. Just go. Just go.
Yes.
But again, this movie, like, it doesn't get to the meat of this movie for over an hour.
Right.
Like, yeah, we get the little scene of like him getting hit with a light and then he's missing. But like we don't get to see anything about what really happened to him for like well over an hour into this movie. And it's a typical hour and a half movie. Right? Well, it's like hour 45. But whatever. Well over an hour before we get to see anything. And then it's really only the one scene. And that's it.
Yes.
So like this is the whole selling point of this film, and we only get like, one little like 5-minute segment, and then the rest of it is just like filling to get us there. And it's just, yeah, like I said, the rest of the movie is just forgettable, and it takes way too long to get moving.
Yeah.
But that's it. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean the friends going, he dead. Like he literally like was up 2 feet in the air and went maybe 4 or 5 feet backwards.
Yeah, and very clearly landed on a bag.
But I'm just saying, like, it's not like he was 20 feet in the air. He was barely off the ground. And for them just to go, he dead? I'm like, no. I wouldn't think anyone's dead from that little thing at all.
Well, they're scared. The real thing was they were all fucking scared.
Yeah.
And their fear was more than his life.
Yes. Even though it's his best, even though that is, Mike's best friend.
Yeah, his best friend. And he was the one driving. Like, it would be different if somebody else was driving and he was like, no, wait, go back. No, He's the one driving. He's the one that drove away.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. And the bullshitness of calling the ufologist, like, no.
Yeah, again, that to me is like your story immediately has zero credibility. If you're like, after all this happened, the first person you call is a ufologist, you are full of shit.
Yes. Yeah. And yeah, right. The special effects in the spaceship outside were atrocious. Maybe they did everything internally first and like, we ran out of the money.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it would have been better if they just left it ominous, like just a light. They didn't have to show what it looked like. I think that would be way better.
Right. And like I said, the aging they did on Robert Patrick, it looked like they aged and just with the same way they aged, the people in the TV series. They just threw flour into their hair. Into his hair. You know what I mean? And I know they're trying to make a new one, but like I said, when the controversy is more interesting than the movie, something's not okay there.
Right.
And I understand, obviously we watch a lot of horror movies and there's always like based on real events. The real events is, somebody saw something at one point in time, then boom, we have 20 children in corns.
Right. Yeah. One time I was in a cornfield and I heard a weird sound, and that's the real event that they somehow base a franchise on.
Right. And considering this is 18 years after the fact, right? They still portray it as a true event, right? I'd love to see the debunking of stuff to be the movie versus the event itself. Obviously that doesn't sell. And yeah, they kind of over exaggerated, this one as well, like they did in Communion, the stories and stuff like that. They don't really go into like the controversy of them being pranksters, Mike and Travis, right? They don't even allude to that in the movie at all. So that's what I got. Why don't you go first for number of probes out of 10?
Okay. This one, like I said, the ship work on this film is very good. The rest of it is just very bland, very boring, doesn't like do anything for you. It's just like you just have to struggle through all that to get to the good part. so that you know
Yes.
what's happening and how this relates to that person. That's it.
Hmm.
But that part is excellent. The rest of the movie is very, very mediocre. So I will go 4.5. 4.5 probes out of 10.
4.5.
And it gets all those points from the fucking internal
Oh,
UFO stuff.
absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said, I don't think I actively hated this movie like I really did the
No,
other
I didn't.
ones.
Yeah, I didn't actively hate it like I did Communion. I just thought it was a very boring movie, and there's one really good scene in an overall boring movie.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm raising just because of the controversy and interestedness that had to it. Yeah, is that fair to the movie? Not necessarily, but I'm going to go to 6. Like I said, the special effects of this are just that's where all my points are coming from too. Essentially, is Robert Patrick and the special effects of the inside of
Right.
the ship. I said, will I watch this again? Absolutely. And I said, and my points are that high too, just because that sequence is seared into my brain. And this is one of the movies too that I remember watching on TV, 1993, 1994, whenever it came out on TV, that got lost to me, that I didn't know what the hell it was for a very long time. I didn't know it was Fire in the Sky. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. See, Fire in the Sky was one of those movies that I watched and I knew exactly what it was.
Yeah. But for me, being at, let's say 9, it just didn't escape. It escaped me, but enough to get that the abduction part, the probing part, seared into my brain. It wasn't. I don't think I really knew what it was until probably 7 years after that. So, all right, and then our impromptu fourth one,
our
alien abduction.
Audible called at the last minute. Yes.
Incident in Lee County. Why don't you give us a quick and dirty recap?
Yeah, this movie is essentially the same movie as the McPherson Tape. I mean, it literally is. It's the same like screenplay. I watched this because, as we discussed from the first movie here, I could have swore I saw this movie. All the things that I remembered about it were everything in the internet pointed me towards the McPherson Tape being it. It was not it, and I was like, now I'm convinced. Like, I have to find where this came from. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch this other remake version of it. I felt like this is too late because this came out in '98.
Yeah,
I feel like that's
9 years.
Right. I feel like that's too late. Like, I was already like 20 years old at this point. I felt like I was younger when it happened, but
right.
Whatever. I guess I wasn't, because I watched it, and this is the movie that I was thinking of. This is the movie that I remember. Again, it's the same story. There's no birthday party this time. It's just Thanksgiving. But it's the same thing. Family is, hanging out, enjoying Thanksgiving dinner. Power goes out. They go out to check the circuit breakers, and this time there's like very clearly the circuit breakers are hosed.
It's
the last time they didn't even. I don't even think they did anything. They're just like, huh. And then
it's melted.
Yeah, they're melted and gone. And then they hear a gunshot. And they go, oh, that came from over there. Let's go check it out. So they go over there, check it out. They see the same thing. It's they see an alien spacecraft, which you can actually like see it now because they're using a better fucking camera. And you can see like little alien men walking around. One of them goes and sees them and shoots like a laser at them. It hits one of them in the hand and like burns their hand.
Yeah.
So they run back to the house. Same thing as they freak out, grab guns, like, oh, we got to do something about it. And eventually everybody's like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, nothing's going on. And they eventually like decide to try eating Thanksgiving dinner in the dark somehow.
Oh, they had the Thanksgiving candle to light.
Yeah. So like, anyway, but in this one, like, weirder stuff happens where they have like weird sounds that are happening that we can't hear, but they can hear. Sometimes it's like ear piercing. Sometimes it's like they say they hear the little girl playing the piano when there's no piano playing.
Never heard it once.
Yeah.
It happened multiple times.
They say it multiple times in the film, but the girl just like sits down at the piano. I don't know if he meant to dub in piano music and never did, or if that's just a part of their mind control. Who knows? We don't know. But anyway, there's things audibly, happening, to them that they can hear that we can't. But anyway, so like stuff like that's happening. Eventually, we hear an alien upstairs. We hear him walking around. So the kid with the camera goes outside. He sees an alien face in the window upstairs. So like, okay, so he goes upstairs. Him and his brother with the shotgun go up there. They go room to room, really slow. Like he has time to change his pants that he pissed in earlier.
Yep.
I don't know how big this upstairs is, but like 5 minutes later, he's still checking rooms. But anyway, he checks a room. He sees an alien in there, and he's like, "Oh, I caught it in here. Like I closed the door. It's like trying to get out, but it's trapped in here."
Ma, get the rope.
Yeah, so they get a rope and they tie the doorknobs together. I've never seen this as a way to hold the door closed, but they tie two doorknobs together, and that's supposed to stop them from opening the door. It keeps trying to get out. Eventually, it hits the door with its little laser thing, and the guy shoots it through the door. A very comically exactly spheric hole happens in the door. They open the door. The alien is on the ground, apparently dead. They cover it in a blanket. They cover the door with a bookshelf, and they go back downstairs. Now at this point, the little girl is very clearly like under the mind control of the alien. Like she keeps trying to like open the door and let the alien out. She keeps saying, "Oh, it's fine, guys. Like let's all go outside." Like whatever the aliens want them to do, the little girl is like trying to tell them that's what they should do. They don't seem to grasp this concept, but it's very obvious to us what's happening. So the same thing happens where all the guys decide, hey, we got to go get the truck. This time they actually show what happens. They show the truck has a melted battery. Then anyway, they come back in to like, oh, we got to go get a different battery, and they go back out, and then they disappear again.
Yeah.
So it's basically all the the little girl, grandma, the two, or three girls. This one has three girls.
Well, at this point,
three women.
Yes.
And
then
Matthew
still.
Yeah, and then the kid with the camera.
Oh, and Matthew, because they start making out.
Oh yeah, that's right. So yeah, like weird things are happening, but it's obviously like they're being like mind controlled to some degree. To where like weird things are happening, to where like they hear the little girl playing, which she's obviously not. Like Matthew, who's the one sister's boyfriend, is making out with one of the other wives, and he gets like, "Oh, I thought it was you." It's very, very odd things happening.
And then Renee is like seizuring.
Yeah, well, Renee gets hit with like a laser,
yeah,
and like gets like knocked out, and then she starts having a seizure, and she eventually dies just from nothing. We don't know what happened, but she eventually dies. But anyway, so they keep getting like tortured. Matthew goes out to try to figure out what's going on. He's gonna go get his car. He disappears too. They go outside to see what's going on. They end up seeing like their guns and flashlights, so they know like something bad happened to them, but they don't know. They go inside. Again, it's like the same thing. Hey, we don't know what to do, so they just like play cards, and then
they play Go Fish.
Yeah, they play Go Fish just like in the other movie, and then the little girl goes and opens the door and lets the aliens in, and then the alien gets them. But this time we see them like put them in like trances, and then walk them out the door.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go into what I remember. The memories that have been living in my head since the first time I saw this. One was the scene where he shoots through the door.
Mm-hmm.
The alien is in the room. He shoots through the door, and then like very creepily after that all happens, the little girl like, let's go downstairs now, and they all go okay, and they all go down. I don't know, but that part is really stuck in my head as kind of weirded me out. I don't know why, but that was when I saw that, I knew for a fact this was the movie I had seen before. Now the weird thing about it is that this is not the ending I saw before. That's not what happened. There was no like everybody playing cards around a table. That wasn't what happened. In the version that I saw when it was on TV, the kid like goes in the bathroom and does like his little like, Heather from Blair Witch like confession to the camera type thing.
Right.
And then in the original version, he walks through the house like checking the rooms. And then as he walks in one room and he turns around, the alien is behind the door.
Mm-hmm.
The alien like pushes the door closed and then walks towards him slowly. And then he like puts the camera down, gets under it, that's put into a trance or whatever. But anyway, the alien walking towards him is essentially the end of the movie. So it's just like it pushes the door closed, walk towards him, end of film. Now this is again, I was like, this isn't the ending. Like, what the fuck? Like, what am I watching? And essentially, I looked it up on like at Wikipedia. I've seen multiple other people on other forums, and like social media and stuff like that have talking about how this is not the ending they remember. But anyway, and even on the Wikipedia page, it says alternate ending. Alternate ending is the version where the aliens come in to them at the playing cards at the table. The original aired version was the version that I saw. There just isn't an available copy of that original version. I looked all over the place. I could not find it.
Right.
I found a lot of different versions of this movie out there, but you can't stream it anywhere, but it's on quite a few places on YouTube. And every place on YouTube is like the same version of this goofy alternate version. So I think when it finally got released on VHS, I think this is where this version was ripped and then uploaded. I think the VHS version had this different ending.
Right.
And so I mean, I'm sure it exists somewhere where somebody taped it off of TV and then uploaded it somewhere. I don't know where that is. I can't find it. But anyway, I'm convinced. I know now that this is the movie that I had seen. I just have not seen yet with my own eyes the original ending, because the ending was the part that really scared me.
Right.
And I think, and other people that I've read on the forums and stuff, they're like, yeah, the ending was very scary. I don't know why they changed it, because the alternate ending is dumb. It's not scary at all. It's stupid.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. And doing research with this one, we, like I said, we just decided like a couple hours before this, like, we're just gonna add a fourth one to this. So I watched this as well. And like I said, doing the research, I distinctly remember the two things of this being on UPN of this, and after that is the vampire one, right? And I watched part of the vampire one, but I know that I distinctly watched this movie when it was on TV. And yeah, the ending was not the same. And we both had the same thing. We both thought this movie was the McPherson Tape. Easily thought that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the McPherson Tape, the first one being called the McPherson Tape, doesn't make sense because the family is not the McPhersons.
No.
Neither is anyone attached to it. It's like this movie does make sense as the McPherson Tape because the family's name is McPherson.
Correct.
So I don't know if there was some kind of like mismatch somewhere somehow, because this one is not known as the McPherson Tape. This one is known as Alien Abduction Incident in Lake County.
Right.
But I don't know. It's bizarre. I think there's a whole lot of like miscommunication going on. I think this is such a little known film that I think there's a lot of misinformation going on. So whatever. I just know for a fact that the shooting through the door scene solidifies this to me as the movie that I remember watching.
Mm-hmm.
The unfortunate thing is I have not been able to see that original ending that I remember, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, this is the same guy 9 years later, and I arguably did it better, and did the same thing. Like they thought this was going to be a real, with this movie and the vampires was like a real investigation. So he did the same thing 9 years later, and then just paired it with something else. Now I don't know if that vampire thing's even available anymore. Who knows? I mean, we could do research too.
Well, yeah, but that was one of those like, fact or fiction type things.
Yeah.
Where it was like a fun special at the time, but not really something that people want to like preserve for the future type of thing. And this is another one of those things that's kind of like that. I've heard rumors of there being a Blu-ray version of this that was like being sold by the director or like by his merch department or whatever. I have not been able to find it. Even on like eBay or Amazon in any way, like there's no listing whatsoever for it. Like you can find it on streaming services, but there's no like way to stream it. Like streaming services know it's there. There's no picture.
Yeah.
But the description is there. So like I know that it exists, but it's a very, very like unknown film apparently.
I just wonder if I can go into the found footage groups I'm in and see if anyone can get a copy of it.
That would be great.
Interesting.
But yeah, I was like archive.org had like 5 versions in there. None of them had the right one. I must have watched 30 different versions that I found on like YouTube and various other like video sites over the web that have the entire movie uploaded. And I watched the ending and it's all this alternate ending.
Yep.
None of them have the original. So I would love to see the original version just so that I know that I'm not crazy. But again, I know that this was the movie I was thinking of because that door scene is the exact one that I remember.
Right. So why don't you go first with your highlights for this?
I mean, isn't that really a whole lot of highlights? It was just like one of those like brainworm things that I had
Hmm.
seen as a younger man, and I could not, for the life of me, I didn't know what the name of it was. No one had any idea what I was talking about. Internet searches brought up largely nothing until recently when it finally came up with the McPherson tape. I think you and me did an extended
Yeah.
search and we finally found what it was. And it's, again, a very, very little known television, made for television movie.
Yeah.
Found footage before found footage was really a thing. So yeah, it's very hard to find, but I mean, it's better than the first one. I'll say
Yeah.
that. That's about as good as I can say. It's better than the first one. The acting is much better. They're not just like, rattling on about dumb shit. Yeah, they tell them to turn the camera off several times, but it's not like the only fucking thing that they say. Like they didn't say it quite so many times as they did in the first one. Again, mainly it's just going to be it's the same thing as the first one, only better,
Yes.
but still
Yeah.
made for TV. So,
Right. That's all your highlights.
yep.
I mean, I completely agree. That's definitely a highlight. I think that it's nice that they weren't talking over each other nonstop. That was a refresher from the first one, that they weren't just having conversation matches in the movie. Just you could say the most things. And like I said, it's nice, to get remade 9 years later, which is a pretty short amount of time, but by the same person with a clearly bigger budget and trying to do the same thing, 9 or 10 years later. It's interesting once again to portray it as a real event that they show on TV. And still, once again, before Blair Witch. That's astounding to me.
Right. Well, I think the first one I don't think hit at all. I don't think
No.
I think the first one was seen by very, very, very few people. That's why I think he got the green light to do it 9 years later, because no one knew anything about the first one. So it wasn't like he was repeating the first one. I mean, he was literally doing it, for the first time again, right? Because
Right.
no one knew about the first one. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and the OG ending, once we can find it and confirm it, it's still a better ending. It's still ending wise probably the best ending of any of these movies.
Yeah,
The
I mean, again,
original ending.
that original ending scared the crap out of me, because it was like,
Yeah.
you walk in a room and then like the door closes and there's an alien behind it and it comes walking at you. Like, that scared the shit out of me. Again, now watching it, it's like, oh, this dumb ending. Like, where's the one that scared me?
Right. And he had legit actors in this too, though.
Yeah,
I looked them up too. So I'm like,
there's only one that like did anything of substance, and that was the girl who died. I think she did like Entourage and like some other shows. I didn't watch them, but apparently she was like in them. So.
Well, I also looked at the mom because she's a grandma, right? She's only 40. She's only 40 in real life when this thing came out, and she's on other things. I recognize her from other things. Those were my highlights. I'll roll into my low points. Obviously, seemingly incomplete movie, missing sounds. That's are seemingly supposed to be there.
Well, I don't think they're supposed to be there. I think that's just the signal that that's the sound of the mind control. Because again, when they were hearing that loud squealing noise that was hurting everyone's ears, we didn't hear that either.
Right.
So like whatever frequency the aliens are transmitting the sound on, we can't hear. So I think that's just what it is.
The piano playing felt like it was missed.
Well, that was all after though. She only started playing the piano because they make a comment. How did you learn to play the piano so well?
Yeah.
So like I don't think she knew how to play the piano. I think they were using that as an excuse because she was like fully controlled at that
Right.
point.
Low point, Christmas candle or Thanksgiving candle. That's weird.
Well, Thanksgiving candle, but it wasn't even a nice candle. It was just a generic table candle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So I understand when the appliances start turning on by themselves. First off, someone had a smoothie in the blender just sitting there doing nothing but stuff in the blender.
Okay. For a fact, whenever a movie has power come back on after an outage, there's always stuff in the fucking blender.
I know.
And the
And that
blender is
annoys
always
me.
still turned on, and it immediately spins and splashes stuff around because that's the movie trope for when power comes back on. That's what happens.
Yes. The power comes back onto the gas stove and all the burners are lit and on fire. That's not how electricity works.
It's not. I don't think it was electricity. I think it was just showing that the aliens were fucking with everything in the house.
I know, but that means the gas got turned on. You can have a pilot light ignition, but the gas is not going to be on, so the knobs are clearly turned as well.
I don't know.
Power restoration.
I don't know what kind of alien powers they have.
I'm just saying, typically power restoration does not ignite a gas stove.
Well, again, but they're doing a lot of, they're like mind controlling children. They obviously have abilities that are beyond the normal. Could that include turning on a gas stove without the knobs? It very well might. I don't know.
Yeah. And, you know, I feel like his nods to his original work are so stupidly tongue in cheek. Like the whole go fish thing. Like, I think like that was the alter ending because that's what they did at the end of the first one.
Right. But yeah, the fucking go fish thing is not in the original ending. No. That's what pisses me off.
Yeah. Yeah, we were able to see things better, but still shit quality, unfortunately.
Well, still shit, but at least we're not looking at, black screen for fucking 5 minutes. Like, what is happening? What is going on?
Right. Still couldn't really see aliens through glass windows and doors.
Well, no, but that's, yeah, whatever. That's dumb. Yeah, it's still just as bad in those respects, but at least, like, there was, like, the camera work was much better than this one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, still really hard to see everything.
Oh, yes, very much so.
Those are my low points. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, overall, just the ending is really, really disappointing to me. I'm really still pissed that I can't find the original. I just want to see it. I don't care what crappy version I find it in. I just want to know that it exists. And it's not like a weird Mandela effect thing that doesn't really exist, and I remember it somehow. Although, I will say this. I was one of the people that vividly remembers Fruit of the Loom having a cornucopia in it.
Oh, me too.
They have since found out that Fruit of the Loom was lying. Fruit of the Loom always had on their website and have always said they've never ever had a logo with a cornucopia on it.
And they did.
And they did. And people found multiple versions of it. And they now have real proof that Fruit of the Loom, at least at one point in time, had a cornucopia as part of its logo.
Yep.
And they purposely did that to try to build juice for their brand.
Yeah.
Which is bullshit. But anyway, that was one of the Mandela effect things that I remember that has since been proven right. I know that has nothing to do with this, but I wanted to bring it up.
Like I said, we both remember, and other people remember the same ending that no one can find.
Right. No, yeah, I found like at least 5 people that have talked about the same ending. They're not from me going, hey, do you remember this ending? And they go, yeah. No, it was they completely on their own in a conversation that I was not involved in brought up the same ending that I remember. So,
yep. What are your low points, though?
That's it. Yeah, that's it. The ending is very disappointing. Other than that, it's the same exact as the other one. I mean, it's pretty much the same film. I mean, it's made slightly better, but it's basically the same thing.
Yeah, and because that slightly better is there, I'm going to hold 3 probes out of 10. How about you?
Yeah, no, you know what? I will give it double. I will double my score. I will say it gets 4 probes out of 10, simply because I finally got vindication that this movie actually does exist, and I didn't just make up some bizarre thing in my head.
Right. This was an interesting episode, to say the least. Hopefully Salem can sleep better now.
No, I won't. It'll be a few days before I can.
All right, anything else to add before we close out?
Nope.
All right, so whether you're looking for Nazi werewolf women of the SS, or witches in Salem, or just the elite torturing of people for entertainment on Halloween, Rob Zombie has you covered. We are spotlighting the remaining Rob Zombie horror movies with the next Director Spotlight episode. Fingers crossed that one day we'll actually have more than just a trailer for the werewolf woman of the SS. as it's one of the remaining fake trailers from Grindhouse that we've yet to get to, as we discussed before.
I think
We
there's
will not
only
be
two. All the rest
Yeah.
of them are movies now.
It's Don't and this.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about that trailer a lot more in next week's episode, along with 31 and Lords of Salem, for really closing out Rob Zombie, and everything else after this will just be a catch-up episode.
Yeah, as of right now, I mean, except for like what Super Beasto, which I have
and the Monsters, yes.
Well, yeah, I don't have any desire. I don't even know if either one of those be considered horror, really.
No,
so
I've seen both of them. They're not horror.
Yeah, so I would say that I think we're done with Rob Zombie unless he comes out with a new horror movie. So, well,
maybe we'll get the Halloween 3 at some point.
I would love it. But all these other, hardcore purists are going to be very angry about it.
Well, it'll be interesting because, who's more angry now about Halloween Ends or Rob Zombie's Halloween 2?
Yeah. There you go.
All right. But anyway, as we said, we watch bad movies, so you don't have to, and really strongly suggest not watching most of these movies from this episode.
Don't bother with any of them.
Yes. So anyway, this has been Graveyard saying, have you checked on the children?
This is Salem saying, long live the new flesh.
Good night.